You're fine. Yeah. So thank you so much, and it's great to have the opportunity to speak on the Circumvention Closing the Loopholes report. Deputy Speaker, Australia is of course a free trade nation. As a small country, trade is our lifeblood. And over the last 30 years in this country, we've seen real average incomes double. Trade has been a critical part of driving that. But sometimes trade isn't done fairly, and the Standing Committee on Agriculture and Industry recently looked into one of the more difficult areas where we see a barrier to fair trade in Australia, and that is around the practice of dumping. So for those listening in the gallery, dumping is a process where we see foreign exporters selling goods into Australia at below the price of making them. And it's often the result of foreign governments who, usually for their own reasons in their own domestic economies, are providing unfair subsidies to the producers who operate in those countries. And these are subsidies that a free and fair trading nation like Australia would not provide. So essentially what happens with dumping is that it allows foreign companies to come in and compete with Australian companies, but not on a level playing field. Dumping isn't illegal, but under the World Trade Organisation rules, Australia is allowed to impose duties when we see that a product is being dumped into our market. So it's through this mechanism that we're able to even up the playing field a little bit. And one of the things we learned in this inquiry was that the law that regulates action against dumping and how those duties are set needs to be in a continuous process of evolution. As fast as we can make laws against dumping, companies that are operating overseas find a way to get around them. An example, Deputy Speaker, to bring it to life a little bit, one of the things we heard about a great deal in this report is something called the minor modifications problem. So this is occurring quite significantly in the steel industry in Australia, which faces a lot of competition from goods that the Australian government has deemed as dumped in our country. So we've put dumping duties on the importation of some steel, but recently exporters have tried to circumvent those rules by putting small amounts of boron into their steel formula. Now, they call this pixie dust because the boron does nothing to the operation of the steel. It doesn't change its essential properties. It's been put in there by the producer simply to circumvent the dumping duties that the Australian government has imposed on those imports. So we see this quite frequently in other areas too. So a dumping duty is put in place on a particular product, and then an exporter makes a minor modification to that product so it meets a different definition. Clearly, Deputy Speaker, this is completely unfair. So this is one of the issues that we covered in this ever-evolving area of trade. What did we recommend in response to some of the issues that we heard? So the minor modifications problem, we're very pleased to see the Department of Agriculture has picked up on that. They've put in place a new process, and we're keenly watching to see whether that manages the problems that we've raised. But we want to see constant and rigorous evaluations of the laws we have in place, Deputy Speaker, and it's for that reason that the Standing Committee has recommended that we get a 6-month report from the Anti-Dumping Commission to explain a little bit about how things are going and update us on any actions they're taking to ensure constant vigilance in this space. We've also made some recommendations, Deputy Speaker, about making the system faster and easier to use for Australian companies. Deputy Speaker, the report that we're tabling today is testament to the hard work that's often done in this parliament but doesn't get a lot of play sometimes by our friends in the Fourth Estate. We worked very collaboratively on this. The chair of the committee, Ron Ramsey, did a fantastic job. It's a bipartisan report, an area of bipartisan concern, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done. I want to say thank you to the wonderful committee staff who helped us with this. Anthony Overs, who's here in the House with us, who drafted this report. Thank you, Anthony, and the support provided by Peggy Danee. So I want to thank the committee for their hard work, and it's a pleasure to have participated in this inquiry. Thank you.